There are some games that just can't seem to make the transition to 3D effectively. I've mentioned this in my review of the horrific Paperboy for the N64, but just because a game series has a rusty start to 3D doesn't mean that it can't redeem itself. Castlevania was a great side-scrolling action game series until Konami decided to turn it into a more open experience on the N64, which wasn't received well. However, if at first you don't succeed, what are you supposed to do? Yep, try again, and Konami did just that. This is Castlevania Lords of Shadow for the Xbox 360. Castlevania Lords of Shadow follows Gabriel. Hey, that's my name. Gabriel is a member of the famous Belmont family, so it would be safe to assume that this follows a similar plot structure to the originals, right? Well, sort of, but the pace of Castlevania Lords of Shadow is much slower, allowing for more exploration and investigation than the first few games, which encourage speeding through levels to get to the end without getting hit. I don't really prefer either style because both of them do work very well, but this could be a pro or con depending on your personal taste. Lords of Shadow does really play like Konami took the original formula and added a third dimension. You're still going to be fighting bosses, you still swing weapons and throw items, and there is still quite a bit of platforming. However, the combat system is actually a lot more fun than earlier games. It's a combination of button presses, quick dodges, and quick time events, and while I really didn't have a problem with the combat in the original games, this is a welcome addition. Of course, some people do say that it resembles a certain PlayStation exclusive, maybe one that follows a Greek god of war, but it does feel right at home. In addition to the classic Castlevania elements, Lords of Shadow adds a few puzzles to the experience. I wasn't sure I was going to be on board with this, and to be honest, this part of the game starts feeling like Zelda, but the puzzles are blended well enough into the action that it doesn't really start to bother you. The game has a nice difficulty, mixing fighting pathetically weak enemies with scary difficult bosses, with just the right level of each. Now, the one thing that really bothered me with Castlevania Lords of Shadow was the camera. It reminds me of the camera used in old Resident Evil games, and it does not turn at all. It just starts to feel primitive. The camera shifts angles automatically as you go from one area to another, but I really don't know why they did it this way. The right stick isn't really used, so why can't it be for turning the camera? It baffles me, but because this is the only real flaw I found, and because the rest of the game is so good, I'll let it pass. Visually, Lords of Shadow was really surprising to me. I expected okay visuals, but what I got were some of the best I've ever seen on the 360. Frame rate can get slightly choppy in cutscenes, but character models and colors are so well done that you won't even really notice. Lighting effects are also extremely impressive, and this game really shows that the 360 isn't down and out just yet. Castlevania Lords of Shadow is a title that didn't get much recognition because it was overshadowed by some of its portable cousins, but it still is one of the best action games available this generation. There really isn't an excuse for not playing this.